too often is a firm will go to, for example, a leasing agent and deal with the space, start stealing the space, but they haven't worked out what the business requirements and risks are. Pep Guardiola, coach of Manchester City, and he said something that's pertinent here. He says, we do not pass to move the ball, we pass to move the opposition. And the tenant's opposition is, in fact, of course, the landowner. If one's buying a freehold premises to utilize, the opposition is the seller. It really is. You're on opposite sides of the fence. And so one has to learn what is the business requirement and how to move the opposition. A very busy slide, and a lot of these slides are busy, and it's the only way we can communicate in a short space of time, a lot of detail. And so for the plan phase for us, let's have a closer look at what the tasks and milestones and the purpose of this phase. So the purpose of this phase here, to set the scene for leverage and for the best outcome, is to establish the business requirements and risks. We should have the word risks there. It's to establish the workplace strategy, or it might be retail, or it might be industrial. And so a better expression there is what we call the accommodation strategy. What's the strategy about brick and mortar accommodation to support the business? And to establish the leverage plan. Plan how one is going to build leverage. Plan how one is going to get to get more out of the process and the outcome. And then, of course, identify the constraints. And there's always constraints. Identify the constraints and develop the strategy. And so here are the tasks and the deliverables for the plan phase. Phase one, very simple tasks, but difficult in practice. Build the strategy into the future, a business strategy into the future. How does that apply to the accommodation? Business needs into the future. How does that apply to each of location, premises, and terms? Risks into the future. How does that apply to each of location, premises, and terms? And negotiation leverage plan, and how does that apply to a four-step process? I think Dylan might have a comment here.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there and say, I think, it's important to remember in this planning stage that clearly, when you're dealing with a commercial lease over a long term, there are going to still be a lot of unknowns, regardless of how much planning goes in. And so if we look at this as a risk mitigation exercise, as one where you understand what are the unknowns and whether that is around, future business growth, or the potential that the business might contract over that time, or that the location may not be suitable for your business in several years. It's around understanding what are the points that are going to be important, that you maintain flexibility through the negotiations, so that you can actually plan and build those into the negotiations, rather than trying to pivot through the negotiation process and potentially losing leverage because those future unforeseen or perceivable circumstances haven't been taken into account. So it's not about having a plan that we're locked into that can't be moved. It's all about planning for where that flexibility is needed and where we're able to move through the negotiation.
Thank you, Dylan.